Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to MST.TV. This is Nishi here, and in today's Market Watch episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the cards I feel you should all be paying attention to because of the role that they're likely going to play in the upcoming format. So we all know that Duel Overload is coming out in just a couple of weeks, and it is introducing some absolutely broken cards into the game, cards like Union Carrier, Needlefiber, and Predaplant Verte Anaconda. This, combined with the upcoming Master Rule changes, are making people excited about a lot of different decks, strategies, and combos, so there's a lot of cards that are being bought and spiking up in price as a result. So today we're going to take a look at some of these cards so that you guys can make informed decisions when you're looking to either pick up these cards or offload them. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So starting off simple here, we'll take a look at something that has picked up a lot of people's attention over the last week or so, and that is the Infinite Negate loop with Apex Avion and Thunderbird. So between these two cards, which you can bring out with the new Simorgh Link and Union Carrier, you can set up an infinite number of negates, preventing your opponent from playing the game at all. At the moment, Thunderbird is the one that hasn't been reprinted at all, aside from its original Secret Rare and Dual Terminal printings. So you're looking at around $7 for a Secret Rare copy and $10 for the Dual Terminal version. Now fortunately, we have seen Apex Avion already reprinted, so you can grab Super Rare versions for under $1 or so. However, if you're looking for a higher rarity version, secrets are around $15 each, while Dual Terminal copies are a whopping $35. This is pretty crazy, and the more attention I see surrounding this card, the more I get the feeling that Konami might do something to potentially hit this combo on the ban list, with either of these cards possibly being banned, as each of them is abusable since neither of them is a hard once per turn effect. That being said, I could definitely justify holding on to one copy of each if you want to play this link just in case it doesn't get hit, but I would definitely recommend selling your excess copies. Now another card that you might also want to consider looking into is Dark Simorgh, specifically the Secret Rare version. This card can be brought out using the Simorgh Link as well, and combined with Anti-Spell Fragrance, prevents your opponent from playing spell or trap cards at all. Definitely a cute alternative that you might want to consider, so I would have your copy of Dark Simorgh readily available just in case. For now, Super Rares should only be about $1, and Secret Rare Unlimited copies should be about $6 each, but Secret Rare First Eds are already around $40, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, definitely a really great option that you can also consider running either alongside the Infinite Loop combo or as an alternative to it. Okay, so while we're talking about birds, let's talk about how big of a boost Ystrix is for the Raid Raptor deck. Ystrix is amazing because not only does it give you an extra extender, it also gives you the ability to search for Soul Shave Force, which lets you to take a Forstrix from your graveyard and turn it into Cyber Dragon Infinity. This is even better under the new Master Rule changes, since you don't even need to have a Link Arrow opening up a zone for the Infinity. As a result, Soul Shave Force is up to around $4, though because it is such an old super rare, I honestly wouldn't be surprised at all to see it hit around $10 to $15 a piece, barring a reprint in like an OTS tournament pack or something. Now, two other cards I want to touch on briefly here are Bora and Chris, both Blackwing cards. I believe that these cards spiked in price because they could potentially be used in Lunalights as an alternative that you can search with Forstrix if you've already drawn Zephyros. Each of these is a free special summon if Zephyros is already on the board. They're a bit different from one another. Bora pierces, while Chris has 200 more attack points, and once per turn it can't be destroyed by spell or trap cards. Now, Chris only has one printing ever, and it's quite expensive at around $12. However, Bora has multiple printings, including a lot of different common prints, which are quite cheap, so it's really just the ultra rare and dual terminal versions that are expensive at anywhere from $10 to $15 a piece. Personally, I think that these cards are both just optional extenders that aren't really necessary. I don't think I would personally play them, but I'm not like an expert on the deck, don't quote me on that. So if it were me, I would sell my high rarity versions of Bora and then all my copies of Chris. Just find a common Bora lying around so that you have the option of another target in the deck if you really need it. Next up, a card that I'm personally really excited about is Artifact Dagda, a Link 2 requiring just 2 monsters with different names. It allows you to set an artifact directly from your deck when a card effect on the field is activated. Also, if your opponent destroys it during their turn, you get to summon an artifact from your graveyard. I personally think that there's a lot to like about this card, and I think it's actually going to make Artifact Scythe really abusable. We already see it with Sanctum, but this card means you probably want to play multiple copies of Scythe, which means your Sanctums are probably always live. Also, it allows you to use cards like Artifact Ignition or MST to pop cards to proc your artifacts as well. Honestly, Artifact Scythe has a really simple effect, but it's just so good at the same time. I think we're gonna see something definitely abuse it after Duel Overload drops. So Sanctums are currently still quite expensive, at around $16 each. The card is still, of course, the best way to bring out an artifact, summoning it directly from the deck, and unless the card gets reprinted, I don't see its price moving anytime in the near future. Artifact Ignition is something that has picked up a lot of attention recently, since you can use it not only to pop the artifact that you set off of Dagda, but also potentially destroy your opponent's Mystic Mine or field spell. Artifact Ignition only has 2 printings right now, it's original, and then the reprint in the Megatins, both of which are ultra rare, and we're seeing both copies at around $7 a piece now, which is actually a fair amount for a card that has seen minimal play over the last few years, though I think that the lack of a reprint is a big part of what has driven up the price. And then Artifact Scythe for now, it's mostly a one-of, right, for people who want to use the artifact engine as they just play 3 Sanctum and 1 Scythe. But I think that it's something that you should have a few copies of just in case it does start seeing play at 3. So yeah, I think that Artifact Dagda is actually going to be a really interesting card moving forward. So I think that the artifacts are going to see more play as a result. While we're talking about artifacts, I really want to briefly talk about the Unchained archetype. If we do see artifacts start to see more play with Dagda, I definitely think that we could also see the Unchained archetype see play alongside of it. So the Unchained cards specialize in destroying your own cards to proc their effects. So we could possibly see cards like Escape of the Unchained or Abominable Unchained Soul used to destroy an artifact during your opponent's turn, allowing you to proc the effect of your own artifact Scythe. At the same time, it helps to provide disruption either by destroying your opponent's cards or allowing you to link with monsters on your opponent's side of the field. Right now, the Unchained cards are quite cheap as the engine never really took off and the deck never really did anything. The cards are due for reprints in the 2020 Megatins, though that probably isn't going to be until around August, and they will almost definitely be in a lower rarity than they are now, as the Unchained archetype actually received like 4 secret rares. They're also already quite cheap at the moment, so I feel like they can only really go up from where they are now. Abomination's Prison has the most potential to spike. It's currently only $15, even though it was one of the short printed secret rares in that set. Unchained Soul of Rage is only $7, even though it's kind of like a really key card that allows you to link with your opponent's monsters during their turn, which is a really cool mechanic. And then Unchained Soul of Disaster is kind of like a brickier card, though it is one of the main ones that you summon after your Unchained card is destroyed, as it allows you to link with your opponent's monster during your own turn. So yeah, I'm not saying that this Artifact Unchained deck is going to be top tier meta or anything like that, but personally I'm really intrigued by the idea of playing the Unchained alongside artifacts, and I think that the Unchained is an archetype that I would be keeping an eye on and picking up for cheap whenever possible. Alright, so I really want to touch on ABCs because I feel like this is an archetype that no one is really talking about. However, the deck has a lot of potential moving forward into the new meta. Not only do we have Union Carrier coming in Duel Overload, but the deck also benefits a lot from not having to make link monsters and going much more easily into Bujintai Tsukuyomi and ABC Dragon Buster. Furthermore, there's a new Union support card in Eternity Code called Union Driver, which basically allows you to pull another piece out of the deck and onto the field. Of course, we've also recently seen cards like Gizmek Yada, which came out after the deck hit its prime, but could potentially help the deck moving forward. Now with that, we've really slowly seen some of the higher rarity versions of ABC cards go up in price. Holo versions of Union Hanger are now around $5 each for either the super rare or secret rare copy. Secret rare ABC Dragon Busters are about $4 each, and then even the small pieces A, B, and C, you're looking at around $2 a piece. Now of course, if you still have the original versions of these cards from the starter deck, they are still quite cheap, but of course I think it looks a lot nicer to have everything matching in secret rare. What I am going to recommend though is if you have a couple of extra pieces that are just kind of lying around, maybe go around to your locals and see if other people have extra pieces that you can trade off of them, because it would be much easier to move the core as a whole, since that makes it more appealing for people to pick up. Now, one card I do want to mention here as well is Galaxy Soldier, which does have a history of getting quite expensive. I thought that this was done, but now we're seeing both of the ultra rare reprints around $5 a piece, as I believe that this is because both of those prints were relatively short printed. So definitely keep an eye on the price of this card. Don't get rid of it for too cheap. Alright guys, one last thing I want to talk about is trains. So apparently trains took first place at our regionals in the UK, which has resulted in a lot of people eagerly looking to play the deck. Now, most of the cards for this deck are pretty cheap, though there are several cards that are on the pricier side due to being shorter printed. So Infinitrack Harvester is the primary target here, something that was previously only around $8, but has now more than doubled in price to around $18. This card was played at 3 in the build that topped, so naturally it was the buyout target this time around. Personally, I don't think that trains are going to see very much success moving forward. I think that this top was at a smaller regional, so I wouldn't read too much into it. However, I do think that a lot of people are going to be looking for harvesters if you do have them, because for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of people like the train deck. Now, two other cards I want to draw your attention to though are Urgent Schedule and Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Lieb. Now, each of these cards are very key cards in the train deck. However, each of them are quite hard to pull. Furthermore, they were from Legendary Duelist 4, Sisters of the Rose, a set which wasn't really open too much. That being said, I honestly think that each of these cards is very susceptible to a buyout and is pretty undervalued at the moment. Not only are these cards good in trains, but I believe that Urgent Schedule is good in Karakuri decks, which might be good with the new Mecha Phantom Beast Link monster coming out, and Lieb is an option for decks like Dark Lords, which have their new Dark Lord Link monster coming out. So yeah, while this top with trains is kind of like shining a light on some of these cards, I think it kind of reveals just how undervalued these cards are at the moment and how much potential these cards have if used in the right deck. I think that at the very least, Lieb is extremely undervalued for what it is and could very easily hit $25, maybe even $30 a piece, and I would look into grabbing your copy sooner rather than later. Alright everyone, that is it for today's episode. Hopefully this brings some attention to some of the things that people are talking about with Duel Overload, aside from some of the really obvious ones, right? Like Needlefiber or Verte Anaconda. Anyways guys, make sure you tune into the channel later today to check out the first place deck profile from Luca, who played Grand Maju and won our locals OTS tournament on Saturday. Luca's a guy that has played Grand Maju for quite some time. I think I'm actually the one who sold him his set of Golden Castles like way back. He's really competent with the deck, so please be sure to show him some love and check it out. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me, and as always, make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know if maybe I missed something or if there's an explanation that was off, so that I can potentially cover it in a future video as well. And yeah, make sure that you guys also have subscribed to myself and Tombucks if you haven't already for all of the latest Yu-Gi-Oh content. And yeah, so until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.